If you have ever owned a pet, you know they will try to eat just about anything. Shoes, socks, even your dinner when you are not looking. But some animals have taken things to a whole new level.
Wow! Don't put the tube. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
From a dog that somehow swallowed a 15-inch knife to a shark that coughed up a human arm. These stories are beyond wild. Get ready, because today we're taking a look at some of the strangest, most horrible things ever found inside animals. Number 20. Vibrator in cod. Of all the things you'd expect to find inside a fish, this probably isn't on your list. No, seriously. This one is going to make you question everything you thought you knew about cod. Bjorn Freeland, a 64-year-old fisherman from Eidsbygda, Norway, was doing what he had done hundreds of times before, gutting a hefty cod. It weighed around 50 kilos. Nothing too strange there. But then he noticed something odd. There was a weird bump in the fish's belly. Curious, he reached in. Out came two partly digested herrings, and something that made him stop cold. It was bright orange. It had a motor. And yeah, it was a vibrator. Freeland had fished those waters forever, but this was a first. He figured the cod might have been confused. Maybe it thought the thing looked like food. In Norway, there is a type of colorful octopus that fish tend to go after. So maybe, just maybe, the cod took a bite and thought, dinner. He shared with a local paper that fish tend to eat all sorts of strange stuff, and this wasn't totally out of character, just really awkward. Then came the guessing game. Where did it come from? His theory? Someone tossed it overboard. Maybe a woman on a cruise had reached her limit and decided to ditch it mid-voyage. There were no batteries inside, which weirdly felt like an important detail. Well, as for the cod, it was given away for fillets. But the orange mystery item? Freeland never said where it ended up. Maybe that's for the best, or maybe it's still out there. Number 19. Live bomb in squid. You think slicing up seafood is boring? Think again. One man in China found out the hard way that dinner prep can come with a serious bang. Literally. Back in 2013, a fishmonger named Mr. Huang was doing his usual work at a market in southern China. He was gutting a squid for a customer. Nothing unusual at first. The squid was about 3 feet long, caught in the shallow waters near Guangzhou. That kind of catch was normal in the area. The weird part didn't show up until he opened the belly. Inside wasn't just the usual shrimp or bits of fish. There was something solid, something heavy, something shaped kind of like an eggplant. It turned out to be a live bomb. And not just any tiny thing. It weighed about 3 pounds. Huang must have been stunned. Imagine reaching in expecting some half-digested fish and pulling out something that could blow you sky high. That thing had just been sitting in the squid's stomach. The squid lived with it inside until the very end. Once the authorities were called, things got serious fast. A special police unit showed up and took the squid away. Then they did a controlled explosion to get rid of the device. It was confirmed to be live. It could have gone off at any moment, maybe even while Huang was holding it. The police didn't say how old the bomb was, but guessed it might have been dropped from a fighter jet. So yeah, careful next time you order calamari. Number 18. Whole deer in croc's stomach. You never really know what's sitting inside a giant alligator until someone brave enough decides to open it up. And let's just say, this one had quite the final meal. In 2014, Ken Owens, a taxidermist from Alabama, got his hands on a monster of a gator. It was taken during the state's annual gator hunt. This thing was massive, 15 feet long and tipping the scale at over 1,000 pounds. That's not the kind of reptile you would want to run into on a lazy river day. As Owens got to work with his knife, something strange caught his eye. At first, it was just a glimpse of fur and a pair of ears, but then it became clear. Those ears were attached to a full-grown adult deer. That's right, the entire deer was in there. Mostly digested, sure, but still all in one piece. He figured the deer was about 3 years old and probably weighed around 115 pounds. Most of the soft stuff, fur and flesh, was already breaking down, but things like cartilage and hooves were still there. What shocked Owens the most wasn't just the size of the meal, it was how the gator ate it. He said people usually thought gators tore their food apart before eating. That idea got thrown right out the window. This one clearly didn't bother, just swallowed the deer whole. One bite, one meal, done. Number 17. Suit of armor and shark. If you thought your diet was questionable, wait until you hear what one shark had for lunch. Back in the 1990s, researchers were studying tiger sharks. These are the ones known for eating just about anything that fits in their mouth, and some things that probably shouldn't. A few of those sharks had their stomach contents put on display during the Sharks, Facts, and Fantasy exhibit in 1994 at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County. People expected maybe some bones or trash. What they saw instead was way more shocking. One of the sharks had swallowed something that left visitors staring. Inside its belly was a full suit of armor. Yes, with the helmet and everything. Not something you'd usually find underwater or inside a shark. Experts guessed that the shark probably mistook the armored person for a seal. Seals are a favorite meal for tiger sharks, but this one bit off more than it expected. Probably realized pretty fast that metal doesn't taste like meat. Hard lesson for both of them. Number 16. Piggy bank turtle.
A 25-year-old sea turtle has undergone surgery in Thailand after swallowing 915 metal coins.
Tossing a coin and making a wish feels harmless, right? In Thailand, it's even seen as a way to bring good luck. But one poor sea turtle paid the price for all those lucky wishes. Back in 2017, a green sea turtle was found struggling near the town of Sriracha. Thai naval officers noticed she was in trouble and brought her in for help. What vets found left everyone stunned. The turtle had swallowed 915 coins. People had tossed them into local turtle ponds for luck, and she had been eating them one by one. The coins had clumped together inside her, forming a solid, heavy mass. It was so large it cracked her shell and led to a painful infection. Surgeons worked to remove the coins, and at first, things looked good. She started healing, and the internet fell in love with her. They called her Omsen, which means piggy bank. But just when it seemed she might pull through, things took a turn. Her breathing slowed. She was rushed back into surgery. This time, vets found that the nickel from the coins had damaged her immune system and caused an infection deep in her intestines. Omsen didn't survive the second surgery. A simple wish had turned deadly. Just not for the person who made it. Number 15. New ant species in frog vomit. Ever discovered something completely new while looking through vomit? No? Well, some scientists in Ecuador did, and it wasn't just gross, it was groundbreaking. Back in 2016, a group of researchers were studying frogs in the wild. Not just any frogs, though. These were diablitos, tiny, bright orange poison frogs known for their powerful chemical defenses. The scientists wanted to know how these frogs got their toxins. To do that, they needed to know what the frog had been eating. They gently captured one and used a soft tube to rinse out its stomach. The process does not hurt the frog, but it is definitely not a pleasant experience for anyone involved. After releasing the frog back into the wild, they turned their attention to the contents that had spilled onto the tray. That's where things got interesting. Among the half-digested remains was a single ant, but not just any ant. This one had never been seen before. It had weird forceps-like jaws and a long, narrow body. They later named it Lenomyrmex hoeldobleri. Scientists think those jaws might help it pull insects out from tight spaces. Sure, it came from frog puke, but to the researchers, it was a huge discovery. And yeah, kind of like something out of a strange science fiction movie. Number 14. Badge in fish. How does a fish end up with a security badge in its stomach? Sounds like a riddle, right? But for one fisherman in the Philippines, it was a very real and very strange problem. In April 2017, Arnold Constantino reeled in a giant lapu-lapu, or grouper, near the shores of Pandan in Antique Province. The thing was huge, almost 7 feet long, and tipping the scales at more than 200 kilograms. People gathered around to see it. Some even called it the biggest catch the area had ever seen. But what came next had folks more confused than impressed. After bringing the fish to a local market to sell, workers slicing it open made a weird discovery. Inside its belly, buried among the usual bits, was a shiny gold security guard's badge. That's when things took a turn. Some people started wondering where the badge came from. Constantino said nobody really knew how it got there, and that's what caused the panic. Was it just something the fish swallowed by accident, or had it eaten someone lost at sea? Either way, the badge spooked buyers. Traders began backing off, and Constantino had to drop the price just to get it sold. Not the ending he expected for such a big catch. But hey, at least he's got one heck of a fishing tale. Number 13. Strange findings in ostrich's stomach. An ostrich, a 4-inch nail, and a mystery. This isn't the setup for a joke, but the strange case that baffled zookeepers several years ago. In 1930, an ostrich at the London Zoo met an unexpected and rather tragic end. To figure out what happened, an autopsy was performed, and what they found inside its stomach was downright bizarre. Zoological Society of London photographer Frederick William Bond knew this discovery needed to be recorded. It wasn't every day that you cut open an ostrich and find a collection that could rival a lost and found box. Inside the bird's stomach were 3 mismatched cotton gloves, 3 handkerchiefs, the wooden center of a silk spool, a piece of lead pencil, a handful of coins from different currencies, part of a bicycle valve, a section of a metal comb, a random piece of wood, 2 yards of string, an alarm clock key, and several bits of metal, including washers. But the real culprit? A 4-inch nail. That was the item that ultimately led to the ostrich's untimely demise. Ostriches in the wild swallow stones to help them digest food, so it's likely this one was just trying to make do with what was available. Instead of pebbles, it had coins and clock parts. Not exactly nature's design for digestion. Number 12. Thumb in trout. Ever lost something important, only to find it in the weirdest place imaginable? Robert Lindsay did. In July 1991, Robert Lindsay was enjoying a day at Flaming Gorge Reservoir in Wyoming when things took a horrifying turn. While trying to rescue his friend's daughter from the water, he ended up in a far worse situation himself. He dove in, but before he knew it, the boat's propeller struck his hand. In an instant, 3 of his fingers were gone. Rescuers managed to find 2 of them, and doctors successfully reattached them. But his thumb? Nowhere to be found. For 6 months, that seemed to be the end of it. Then, an unexpected twist. A fisherman, out on the nearby Green River, caught a trout. When he opened it up, he found something he never expected: a human thumb. Lindsay, curious and maybe a little amused, reached out to the local coroner. After some examination, it was confirmed. The thumb belonged to him. By this time, he had made peace with it, even joking to reporters that he planned to keep it in a jar on a shelf. Because really, how many people can say they fished their own thumb out of a river? Number 11. Goose swallows jewelry. Here is something you don't hear every day: a goose with a taste for jewelry. And not just any jewelry, but a cross necklace. That's exactly what happened in Illinois in 2017 when a woman rushed her 6-month-old pilgrim goose to the vet with a rather unusual problem. She had always worn the cross-shaped necklace, something that never caused any issues, until that day in the barn. While she was cleaning, she bent down to grab something. That's when her goose, apparently drawn to anything that sparkled, struck. In a quick snap of its beak, the necklace was broken, and the cross was gone. For a moment, she probably thought she had just lost it. Then she looked at the goose, and that's when it hit her. Her pet had swallowed it. Worried about what the metal charm could do to the bird's insides, she rushed it to a veterinarian. An X-ray confirmed what she already suspected. The goose had indeed gobbled up the cross. The case quickly earned a nickname: the Holy Goose. But thankfully, there was no need for surgery. Using an endoscope, the vet carefully retrieved the cross, solving the problem without further trouble. The goose, oblivious to the fuss, was just fine. As for the woman, she probably learned to keep her jewelry far away from her feathered friend's beak. Number 10. Lost finger found in fish. Something about trout and lost fingers is starting to feel like more than just coincidence. In 2012, a man named Hans Galassi was enjoying a day at an Idaho lake when things went horribly wrong. As he was wakeboarding, a rope wrapped around his hand. Before he could react, it tightened, yanking him through the water. In an instant, 4 of his fingers were gone. There was nothing he could do. 2 months passed, and the lake kept its secret until fishermen caught a trout and got far more than they expected. Inside the fish's belly was something that didn't belong, a human little finger. Thanks to the freezing temperatures of the water, it was shockingly well preserved. It looked almost as if it had just been lost. The sheriff's office ran fingerprint records, and soon enough, they had their answer. The finger belonged to Galassi. When he heard the news, he wasn't exactly eager to get it back. He had already come to terms with the loss, and as far as he was concerned, the lake and the trout could keep it. Since he didn't want it, the sheriff's office simply put it on ice in an evidence locker, just in case he ever changed his mind. Number 9. Dog swallows knife. Dogs will eat just about anything: shoes, toys, and even homework. But in 2000, a 6-month-old Collie Staffordshire Bull Terrier mix named Kyle took things to an extreme. Kyle, an 18-inch-long pup from Leeds, United Kingdom, managed to swallow something almost his entire size, a 15-inch bread knife.
But something, this sort of size, we're just amazed that the dog had actually managed to swallow it.
His owners had no idea at first, but when he started vomiting and wouldn't settle down, they knew something was wrong. A vet examined him and, surprisingly, found no obvious signs of a foreign object. It wasn't until an X-ray was taken that the truth came out. There it was, an entire bread knife, sitting inside the dog's stomach. The veterinary officer later explained how dangerous the situation had been. The knife could have caused severe internal injuries at any moment, making Kyle's survival nothing short of incredible. Removing the knife took a full hour, but the procedure was successful. Other than some swelling afterward, Kyle recovered quickly. The incident was so unusual that it earned him a Guinness World Record for swallowing the longest solid object ever recorded in a dog. Back at home, Kyle returned to his normal life, hopefully with a little less interest in kitchen utensils. Number 8. Electric blanket and a python. A hungry python and an electric blanket aren't exactly a good mix. But in one bizarre case, a 12-foot Burmese python named Houdini learned that the hard way. The snake's owner, Karl Beznoska, had placed a queen-size electric blanket inside the cage to keep his 60-pound pet warm. But at some point, the blanket got caught up in the python's meal, a rabbit. And instead of just eating its dinner, the snake swallowed the entire blanket, electrical cord, and even the control box. At first, no one knew what had happened, but when the snake started behaving strangely, an X-ray revealed the shocking truth. The blanket's wiring stretched through nearly 8 feet of the python's digestive system. Specialists estimated that swallowing the blanket would have taken around 6 hours, and if nothing was done, the snake wouldn't survive. The only option was surgery. Vets had to make an 18-inch incision to carefully remove the tangled mess from inside the snake. The operation was delicate, but it was a success. The python made a full recovery, none the wiser about its near-death experience. As for Beznoska, he probably thought twice before leaving anything besides food in the enclosure again. Number 7. A book and a fish. Finding a bone in your fish is annoying. Finding an entire book in one? That's a different level of unexpected. And that is exactly what market workers in Cambridge found when they cut open a cod in 1626. Inside its belly, wrapped in canvas and partially digested, was an entire text split into 12 parts. At first, no one knew what it was, but after a closer look, scholars identified it as evangelical writings from the time of Henry VIII. Even more surprising, some of the pages were linked to John Frith, a reformist thinker who had been burned at the stake nearly a century earlier. The discovery was so unusual that the text was later published under the title Vox Piscis, or The Bookfish. Scholars determined that at least 2 sections definitely belonged to Frith. One was a mirror, or glass to know thyself, and the other was a brief instruction to teach a person willingly to die and not to fear death. These had originally appeared in a letter Frith had written to his followers back in the 1530s. How the book ended up inside the cod remains a mystery. Had it fallen into the water by accident, or had someone hidden it there? Whatever the case, this was one meal that came with a side of history. Number 6. Human remains in crocodile. Some celebrations end with fireworks. Others take a much darker turn. Leanne Mitchell and her childhood friend Cindy Waldron had planned a weekend getaway in Queensland, Australia. It was meant to be a special trip. Leanne had recently survived breast cancer, and this was their way of celebrating. They spent the day exploring the beauty of Thornton Beach. That evening, they waded into the water, unaware of what was lurking just beneath the surface. Cindy was swimming when something powerful pulled her under. A crocodile had latched onto her. She fought, struggling against its grip, but in seconds, she was gone. Locals weren't surprised when they heard the news. The area was well known for crocodiles, with plenty of signs warning visitors to stay out of the water. Warren Ench, a former crocodile farmer, pointed out that the beach was even popular for crocodile spotting tours. To some, the risk was obvious. To Cindy and Leanne, it hadn't seemed real, until it was too late. Several days later, hunters came across a massive crocodile. The creature was so full it could barely move. When they opened its stomach, they found the grim confirmation of what everyone had feared. Now, it is time for today's subscriber's pick. And this image is something else. It looks like a large snake that has been cut open. You can see its head pretty clearly with its eye looking a bit lifeless. The inside of the snake is filled with a whole bunch of pink, fleshy-looking things. It's kind of hard to tell exactly what it is, and honestly, it's not the most pleasant sight. You might even say this could be one of the most horrible things ever found inside animals. There are several people standing around looking at it with curiosity. They seem to be in some kind of outdoor or industrial-looking area. It definitely makes you wonder what happened to this snake and how all that stuff ended up inside it. What do you think could have caused this? Have you ever seen anything like this before? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Number 5. Frog swallows. 30 rocks. Ever heard of a frog with a taste for gravel? Sounds like a bad snack choice, but one little green guy made it his meal plan. In Plano, Texas, a pet frog named Kermit made headlines after swallowing 30 tiny rocks from his enclosure. 30. Not one or two out of curiosity. An entire mouthful. Over and over again. You'd think he was training to be a cement mixer. His owner had no idea what was going on until Kermit started acting a little off. Not hopping around much. Just sitting there, like a frog with a stomach full of regret. They rushed him to Paws and Claws Animal Hospital. X-rays revealed exactly what was weighing him down. A stomach packed with pebbles. One surgery later, Kermit was rock-free and probably wondering why dinner had turned into surgery prep. To make sure this didn't happen again, his owner removed all the rocks from the cage. No more crunchy snacks for Kermit. But here is where it gets even more bizarre. That X-ray of Kermit's rock collection ended up winning first place in the They Ate What competition. It's an annual contest where vets submit X-rays of strange things animals swallow. Thanks to Kermit's questionable eating habits, the animal hospital won $1,500. Let's just say he is the only frog who ever made rocks into riches. And yeah, he is fine now, probably sticking to flies like a normal frog again. Probably. Number 4. Rubber ducks. In dog. Rubber ducks are meant for bath time, but one dog thought they were lunch. Benji, a Labrador with a nose for mischief, got his paws on a bag of rubber ducks. Not one, not two, 8 of them. Bright yellow, squeaky, and apparently way too tempting to ignore. While no one was looking, he went full vacuum mode and swallowed every single one. At first, it probably felt like a fun snack, but those harmless little toys turned dangerous fast. Soon after, Benji started throwing up. He managed to bring up 7 ducks, which surprised even the vet. But the 8th one? That one stayed stuck. It lodged deep in his stomach and wouldn't budge. An emergency surgery was the only way to save him. The tricky part? Benji had already been through a similar operation about a year and a half before, after he swallowed the squeaker out of a toy. So, the vets in Edinburgh had to work extra carefully. The operation wasn't easy, but it went well. Benji made it through and spent 2 days recovering like a champ. His owner, Sandra McCready, was beyond relieved. She probably keeps a much closer eye on rubber ducks now. And Benji? Hopefully he sticks to treats from now on. The kind that don't squeak. Number 3. Jumbo. Before Jumbo became a name people used to describe anything big, he was just a young elephant with a wild past and some serious baggage, inside and out. Jumbo was born sometime in the 1860s. near the border of what we now call Ethiopia and Sudan. Sadly, his life didn't begin in peace. After his mother was killed for her tusks, local tribesmen captured the young elephant and sold him to an Italian animal dealer. Back then, most elephants brought to Europe were from India. Jumbo was African, and that meant he was much bigger than what anyone was used to.
A little more famous animal than Jumbo. I mean, we have a lot of famous...
That alone turned him into a sensation. When he arrived at the London Zoo, crowds swarmed in to see him. Kids lined up to ride him. Even Queen Victoria's children and a young Winston Churchill wanted their turn. But when he hit age 21, things started changing. Jumbo began to act out. He got unpredictable, sometimes aggressive. The zoo had no idea what was going on. Later research suggested that he might have been in serious pain from a poor diet, especially bad teeth. Sadly, he died at just 24. The surprises didn't stop there. While preparing Jumbo's remains, taxidermist Carl Akeley found some strange items inside the elephant's stomach. About 300 coins, a police whistle, and a ring of keys. Turns out Jumbo might have been scooping up ride payments and never giving them back. Number 2. Ancient artifact in alligator. You never know what an alligator might be hiding until you open one up and find something older than the pyramids. In Mississippi, a wildlife processor got curious. He had heard about another gator in South Carolina that had some strange things inside. So, he decided to check the stomach of a massive 13-foot gator he had been working on. What he found made him stop in his tracks: an arrowhead and something called a plummet. At first, he figured the arrowhead might have come from someone taking a shot at the gator. But the plummet? That's where it got weird. It looked like something ancient, not something you'd expect in the belly of a modern-day reptile. He showed a photo to a state geologist, who said the object wasn't just old, it was ancient, somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 years old. That's before the wheel was even invented. But there was another twist. James Starnes, a director at the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality, took one look and said it wasn't even an arrowhead. He believed it was a part of an early weapon that launched spears using leverage, kind of like a prehistoric slingshot, a tool used by early humans for hunting. So how did it end up inside a gator? Most likely, the reptile swallowed it on purpose. Alligators eat rocks to help grind up bones and tough meat in their stomachs. But this one? It chose a rock with a lot more history. Number 1. Shark vomits human hand. A shark coughing up a human arm in front of a crowd sounds like something straight out of a bizarre dream or a crime show. But in April 1935, that's exactly what happened at an aquarium in Australia. It started when a tiger shark, recently caught off the coast, was moved to the Coogee Aquarium. At first, everything seemed normal. Then, within a week, the shark got sick. In front of stunned visitors, it vomited up a human arm, complete with a tattoo. That tattoo turned out to be the clue that changed everything. The arm was matched to Jim Smith, a man who had vanished weeks earlier. His wife and brother confirmed it after seeing the tattoo. Investigators ran fingerprint tests just to be sure. But what they found next took things in a darker direction. The arm hadn't been bitten off. It had been cut clean with a knife. This wasn't just a case of a shark attack anymore. Police launched a murder investigation, which led them to Patrick Brady, a known forger. They charged him with killing Jim Smith, but Brady's lawyer pushed back. He argued there was no proof Jim was dead, only an arm. He claimed Smith could still be alive, just missing a limb. The case, now known as the shark arm case, got plenty of attention. Books were written, theories came out, but no one really knows what happened to Jim Smith. Only the shark had the rest of the answer, and it didn't say a word. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.